Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to Oz by Drone.
Hey everybody, great to be here.
You know, John, we need you to do some air drums at the beginning. You're a drummer after all.
Yeah, I know. I love it. I think always a really good theme. I can always dig it. Good sax solo, good sound. Where'd you get it from anyway? I never asked you that.
That song came from the YouTube library.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I got to think about doing some. There might be some money in that.
Well, those ones are the free giveaway ones, but there are other places where you can put them and get some good money out of it. But anyway, hello and thank you for joining us today, John. Where are you?
I am in beautiful sunny Newport, pretty close to home. I've been darting around, got all sorts of stuff going on here, but I love to sit in my car and do the show because I can watch the world go by and, you know, do my thing.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you as always for being here. I know you're busy with all getting around and flying and so forth. What else are you up to this week? What's been happening for you?
Fair bit of playing. I think I had my complaint about paying all the money to cash. I've decided this week that I'm going to keep in the drone business until the money runs out. Don't be used to say about the music business, you know. If I win the lottery, I'm gonna be a jazz musician until the money runs out. But it is a challenge, you know, and I think we're looking for new ways. I've had a couple of meetings looking at new ways for application for small operators, people who do have the type of quads that many of our listeners have, you know, the Mavics, the Phantoms, and so forth, and the belief that there really is work for, you know, easy work for people who want to get into it, do the right thing, and those jobs are going to come up. But you know, we're exploring more ideas all the time. So this is where you'll hear about them first.
Okay. And in terms of other things happening, just a couple of quick things. Spin Up. Just a reminder that Spin Up is this weekend for our US listeners, and I've got a sneak preview for you.
Oh,
every
really?
every person who's attending Spin Up this weekend is going to get a copy of No Limit Drones, the application that unlocks.
What are the
Sorry,
details?
John?
What are the details for Spin Up?
So Spin Up is a conference that's happening in the US run by Kelly, and it's all about drones and YouTubing and the combination of the two. A lot of the YouTube stars and so forth happening there. A lot of giveaways, but we managed to arrange for as an extra giveaway, every single person is going to get a copy of the No Limit Drone software, get a key for that. It's initially limited to 3 months, but to get it converted to an unlimited license, all you have to do is do a review on the social media platform of your choice of No Limit Drones.
Right.
That's it. So really good little special one we've got there. Second piece of news this week, Tim French was raided. We've done a couple of videos on that. That was the guy from the fishing drone. So yes. I know you and I haven't had a chance to speak about it too much yet, John, but I did a really good video yesterday with Gary Mortimer from SUAS News. That was a really good review.
I can find out about that too.
Yeah, and one other thing I do want to share is a good friend and neighbour of mine who's lived close to my home for many, many years, and he moved away. He just passed away at 1:30 this morning, so just, you know, dedicating this episode to him. I won't mention his name, just that his family, you know, have only just found out about it at 1:30 this morning. I was going to go and see him after the show today, and he's a really great man and someone who I've enjoyed talking to for a long time, and yeah, he'll be missed. Anyway.
All right, sorry about that, mate, but...
So let's get on with the good stuff. Let's get into the news. So our first story today, and the news is going to be a little bit different today. I haven't prepared as much as I normally would have. So first of all, the Skydio dock. Now, everyone's had a look at the Skydio and its magnetic battery, but now we know why they had a magnetic battery. Let's play the clip. So, John, a lot of people were initially commenting in a negative way about the Skydio magnetic battery, the whole idea of having a battery that's magnetically held onto the drone. But now that you see this, it all comes to make sense. You know, the battery itself, once it goes into this docking crate or whatever you want to call it, easily swapped out and a new battery put on without having to worry about clips. Thoughts?
It's really clever. I don't know how they get around the engineering with the compass, which is clever as well. I mean, there's been a few engineers looking at the way of not using a compass at all. And of course, that's doable with multiple GPS receivers in terms of how you manage that. But yeah, I mean, it's got to be a strong enough magnet. Once you put a magnet in anywhere near an aircraft magnetic compass, it's toast. You know, it can't work. So there's some tech underneath.
I'll say this though, John. I'll say this, right? The Loom Cube. I've seen Ken Heron talking about the Loom Cube, and he's had the Loom Cube on drones and flying them, and no problem with them. They're magnetically attached. But I think where you put them is the concern, the location on the drone. So is doable, is possible.
Yeah, and also one of the things that you can do too, if you've got a known magnetic field. And look, there's going to be people that are going to be able to that are listening and talking to chat a lot smarter than me about this. Once you've got a known magnetic field, you can calibrate for that. So the battery itself would have certain magnetic properties, and so once you establish those properties, then the magnetism that the Earth is providing can be measured against the calibrated magnetism already in the device. So Absolutely. That's why we calibrate our compass anyway. We've got metal parts in the aircraft, and the way they respond to the Earth's magnetic field often requires calibration. And interestingly, you know, perhaps I'll throw that in there too. We should do more compass calibration. You know, we do it as a daily flight inspection. You know, working airplanes always do a compass calibration at the first flight of the day where you're flying. And you know, some people might say, "Oh, I haven't done one for months," you know, and operate quite successfully. But a compass in many of the aircraft that we're using, commercial, like commercial UAVs, domestic UAVs, the compass is very important.
So let's continue talking about different types of UAVs. So the Mavic Mini, our second story of the day today. We spoke about it last week, and it's due to launch on October 30, but now we're also hearing rumours about a Mavic 3 to be released on around January 2020. Now, the interesting thing about this one is that the Mavic 3, the rumours about this are coming from photo and camera websites, not so much from the traditional, you know, droning websites. So definitely you would assume that there's something new and big, and hopefully the camera itself is going to be, you know, have a mechanical shutter. That's what I'm hoping. If it's a phantom replacement, then that's what we've all been waiting for.
Exactly. I you know, said this some time before. I'd love a 2 kilo Mavic. I want a big Mavic. I want all of the things that I love about the Mavic. I want a swappable camera. I want to be able to put, you know, like the Inspire. I want to be able to change my sensors on it. I want a big Mavic. I don't need to put it in my pocket. I still love it to fold, so it'll go into a briefcase size. You know, it's still a big fuse, a 2 kilo aircraft. But imagine that we could look at 45, 50-minute flight times. That the technology in the Mavic is good. The autopilot's beautiful. You know, just scale it up. And give us that camera that we'd love to have, as you say, a mechanical shutter, you know, a really serious camera, and you're basically encroaching on the Inspire territory, of course, which they might not do. But you know, a lot of Mavic owners out there now, they'd say, "Yeah, I've got to have that one." So the Mavic 3, I hadn't heard of that. It's news to me.
That's the rumor. And speaking of new drones, we got another one. But before I go to the next story, I did see a quick chat comment, and can you put it back on the screen again, Mr. Chatman? The question was, John, how do they calibrate the compass on a plane? It's kind of hard to rotate it like a drone. And it was a humorous comment, but from a technical perspective, how do they calibrate the compass on a plane, John?
Well, absolutely. We do compass calibrations in an aircraft, and you're going to love this, but it's very, very simple. You go out onto an area of asphalt, which is called the compass calibration area, We do it in light aircraft. I've done it in light aircraft, and you actually taxi the airplane out, and someone stands about 20 meters away from the airplane, and they have a sight and a compass, and you sight the compass line down nose to tail on the airplane, and you read it, and all you do is do it for each quadrant. A full compass calibration. You do all the cardinal points and the sub-cardinal points as well. But you can every couple of years, or if you change your radio, if you change anything in the aircraft significantly change, and they call it a swing. It's called a compass swing.
So they do rotate the aircraft.
Right? You take one side on the point, and then you actually taxi the airplane 90 degrees, and until your compass in the aircraft says right, and then the person doing the measuring goes over to the other side, and we call that compass deviation. So compass variation is the difference between true north and magnetic north. Deviation is the difference between magnetic indicated on your compass and the actual direction of magnetic. So sometimes, because of the way the wings are, and particularly going east-west in the southern hemisphere, I'll be turning that off, you will get a different deviation level because of where the wings are and how the airplane's configured. So you might be 3 or 4 degrees, that's all, and you'll have a card in the aircraft just below the compass called the deviation card, and it says when you're going east or west, perhaps subtract 3 degrees to get the correct compass or magnetic direction.
You know what, John? I always heard that airline pilots were deviating. So let's move on.
Deviates, perhaps, yes.
Our next story. UROB, a German drone manufacturer, has developed a drone for industrial applications called Robbie. And I haven't gone into heaps of detail, but just the visual of this one, it looked interesting, and I wanted to share that with you all.
Yeah, look at that. That was just a photo of it I was looking at.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get a video of this one. And if I just click on my link over here, this one they say is for industrial applications. And it includes applications such as inspection of pipelines, combustion chambers in power plants, chimneys, tanks and sewage pipes, etc.
Yeah, the prop protection, the guards make it look like for that kind of gear, that kind of thing. So,
look, it was just interesting, and I wanted to share that. It looks very light. Okay, next one on the list. We're going to go through a lot of stories. We got so many today, so our next one, this one is titled Moving. Moving, and particularly launching while moving. Army engineers have invented an actuating enclosure for deploying drones from moving vehicles, and this is what it looks like. Now, interesting timing that some people have been talking about the Ford Motor Car Company that's developed something to have a drone as part of their cars. But this one's actually reportedly able to allow you to have the drone take off while the vehicle is moving. Now, I don't have a picture of the actual unit, but this is certainly a sketch diagram from the patent.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I was reading the part 117 about operating a remotely piloted vehicle from another vehicle. Not permitted in America. Maybe we should get Lloyd to comment about that.
Oh, I'm going to ask. Okay, let's bring in Lloyd. Just can we have shot E2? There we go. Lloyd, I've just put your mic hot.
Right.
So talk to us about this.
About the
let's we've got something that's a bit loud there. Yeah, it's just echoing and booming a bit. Anyway.
Okay. All right. What was it I was reading the chat.
So
John
operating from a moving vehicle in part 117. The US laws don't allow you to control a drone from a moving vehicle or an aircraft. Yeah,
right. You cannot control it. You can, but you can ride along and do it, because we've seen Ken Heron do that in the past. But as the operator, you cannot be driving both the vehicle and the car at the same time.
Okay. Is that what it means? Is it?
Yeah. Well, for one, it's to be physically impossible unless, like some of these guys that are driving to spin up in the chat and typing in the chat.
I've just lost you, Lloyd.
Again?
Yeah.
Are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not hearing you here in the studio.
Okay. John,
there
can
we
you
go.
hear me?
You're back. You're
All
back.
right, I'm back. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
sorry, I was just trying to fix the
my-
audio. My bad. So finish the conversation. My bad.
Okay. Well, what I was saying is you cannot drive, operate the car and the drone at the same time. You have to, but you can, as a passenger, do like a follow me type situation. And you can, because Ken Heron
Is
did
that
that.
motor vehicle? Is that motor vehicle
Motor
law?
vehicle,
or is that,
yeah. No,
and that will be state based.
No, that's FAA rules, from what I understand. If I remember, because we actually talked about this on Mel's show here. I don't know, a couple weeks ago. We were talking, or a month ago, we were talking about moving over vehicles, and we looked that up. And the operator of the drone could not also be the operator of the car, so he can be a passenger. Yeah, he can be a passenger in the car.
Okay, that's interesting. So going back to the tech that you're just demonstrating, because we're launching
only in sparsely populated areas is it allowed as well.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of things here come into play. The Skydio, again, you've got this thing in your pocket. The airplane's flying fairly in an automated fashion around you anyway, while you're riding a bike or a snowboard or something. And technically, you're the pilot. While you're snowboarding, I'm sure it doesn't have that in there, but also it would do it driving if you're driving a vehicle. I wonder how US laws will get around that. So if it's a non-populous area, it's okay. Is
John,
that right, Lloyd?
Can I jump in for a second? I've got a question for you, and this relates to the Skydio, right? So it's a semi-autonomous aircraft which has a handheld transmitter that has a button on it that can land it safely and go home, or whatever the button does. I don't know 100% the details, but it's following and autonomously flying around the drone. Now, apparently, legislation-wise, that's enough control to be deemed to be safe and to be flyable in the US. You're the pilot in command. You've got one button. So why not the same level of control? A Skydio, hypothetically, following a car, you're the driver of the car, you've got the ability to push one button. That can be done safely. True or false?
I believe it could be done safely, but Lloyd made the comment it has to be a non-populous area. So if you're out in the boonies, of course, no one would argue that that's safe. If you're going to drive through, medium suburbia and have the Skydio follow you while you're driving the car, you're pushing the law there a bit, because you're not watching the road. You'll cause a motor accident more than anything else. You might forget about losing the airplane if you're trying to watch the aircraft or control the aircraft. So and yet if there's enough scope there to do it out in the bush, and not have a problem, which you would just do anyway. There's no real risk to anyone. Mind you, the risk to yourself, think about it, and until you try this, imagine you've got a windy dirt road, you're having a great time up the mountainside, you've got your expensive aircraft following and photographing as you go up. It'd be pretty hard to not look at it, and take your eyes off the road and just check where the aircraft is, I mean, for heaven's sake, get someone else to drive the car.
Look, without spending too much time on it, my understanding is aviation legislation doesn't say you can't drive a car while you're flying a drone, but the driving laws in most countries and in most states will tell you need to be controlling the car, and you can't, for example, touch a mobile phone. That kind of law would preclude you from touching controllers in a lot of places, but not necessarily in every part of the world. That's my understanding anyway.
You're not allowed to eat ice cream while you're driving. I learned that because my auntie did it. She got pulled up. She waved, and the police saw her waving the ice cream out the window at me. And then the cops pulled her up, and she said, "I'm just eating an ice cream. I wasn't on the phone." They said, "Well, waving an ice cream out the window and driving the car. Well, do the maths."
the under Part 107, they can fly from a moving vehicle in a non-populous area, providing they are not the driver but the passenger, and they can do that, but they cannot drive and fly. And going back to the Skydio, that one button controller that you've brought up, Greg, it is also, you can use it to actually guide it to set the Skydio down. There's some new video out that I saw, and it actually works like a wand to move it, and you can move it up and down. And yeah, I know. Don't make fun. By the way, guys, yes, I'm in my robe, so if you can see me.
There you go.
By the way, the story, just for amusement factor, John, earlier today, Lloyd was doing a quick test, not knowing that we were actually already in front of the computer, ready to accept the rendezvous call. And the next thing you know, my wife says, Lloyd's there in his bathrobe in front of this waterfall. And she's eyes popping out. Lloyd, you still got it.
Yeah. You need an umbrella. You need an umbrella. Yeah. Okay, to wrap up this story, Greg, the only thing I'm thinking, the laws, when you start reading into things, it says, you can't do it from a moving vehicle. What's that mean? We've seen videos of Skydios following guys on their bikes, on snowboards, on whatever else. Obviously, this is a motor vehicle rule, and it comes under the, driving and stuff. So there's a whole lot of new stuff there that's going to happen with these very highly automated semi-autonomous aircraft, allowing you to do certain things, but look after yourself.
I think you're right. It's driving law. It's driving laws, not necessarily aviation laws. Not that we're trying to nitpick, but let's move on.
Common sense.
Yeah. This one, the Bionic Bird, is the lightweight drone that can be controlled from your smartphone. We've just got a photo of this, and we'll put it full screen. I saw this and I instantly thought of Jeff Sills. I don't have your music, Mr. Ken Heron, but it just looks so cool.
It's very cool. That's great. Yeah, look, what a fantastic thing. And you might, if it's duck hunting season, you might get shot down.
It's wabbit season.
Wabbit, we're hunting wabbit. Move on. I love it.
The British government should. The British government are going to make it a crime to disable geofencing and electronic conspicuity. I love that word. Electronic conspicuity on a drone, according to MPs. Now, we've got the big geofence wall, and this is the Great Berlin Wall, and there's a little hole in the wall. I thought that was an appropriate way to illustrate. If you can't break down the Berlin Wall, why couldn't you break down the geofence wall? What do you think?
Well, geofence is electronic. It's software. The only type of geofence that is hard to get through is a big net or a big actual fence. We've seen that electronic geofencing is easy to bypass. It's more of a problem than it's worth. I think geo awareness is what it should always have. You should always have a warning that if you're in airspace or near airspace, and as you boot the aircraft up, you get the latest information on where the airspace is and what you're operating, what you need to do. It's easy as that. But, geofencing has all sorts of issues. One of the ones that is a problem is the return to home functions that geofencing can affect. And DJI don't have a workaround for that yet. But if you actually do get into extended flying and, legal extended line of flight sign, you've got to mitigate against the risk that on a return to home that your aircraft is going to make it based on what geofencing there is, and you've got to turn it off basically to do that kind of flying. So anyway, it's new stuff. It's more issues again, but I don't like to see the.
You know what? I got a simple answer, and geofencing with a third-party country or company controlling stuff on behalf of a regulator, I'll always say it is wrong. If geofencing was controlled, even if it's, DJI software, but an API that they control, I'd have no problem with it. But the fact that it's DJI personally controlling it, I don't agree with it.
Totally with you there, mate. It's not right. And, if you had that situation in other aviation sectors, they just throw it out. It's not safe. There's a lot of reasons why it's not safe. It's built there to make things safe, but it actually has problems. One of the first ones is in terms of pilot and command making decisions or having restrictions that might not allow you to make us to a safe action. And underneath aviation law, you are able to do, you're able to land, if you have a problem in aircraft, you're able to land it anywhere at all, even in restricted airspace, provided that that's the safest choice of action. You can't increase the risk when you have a problem by choosing an action. So this is one of the things.
Do you know what though, John? You know what really scares me? I saw one example in a previous episode where someone was flying and a TFR came into effect while he was in the air. Yep. That is just wrong.
That absolutely happens. And so then, because the geofencing, you don't have the option to safely maneuver the airplane. Now, the warning would come up, say TSR's just become active, so you can return to home. You know, one of the actual things that will come up eventually in terms of automated return to home is an automated return to home can provide a situation where it increases the risk to a manned aircraft. So there's a situation where it climbs to a height that you've preset and you've lost control and the airplane climbs into the airspace where the other aircraft is on an automated return to home. That's supposed to be a safety factor. So,
but equally so, once you're in a geo area, it apparently causes a forced landing, not a return to home. So exactly right. It's coming down on the top of someone's head in an uncontrolled manner. It's wrong.
Yes, it is.
There needs to be a warning, 10 minutes, 15 minutes before the TFR comes into effect to allow someone to return home before it comes into effect.
Should take control. Yeah. Oh, that's right, Lloyd. That's my point. It happened to a manned aircraft taking control of the aircraft where the human can't make the decision. The very reason that we're not allowed to have fully autonomous aircraft, is because we've got to have someone in the loop that's got a brain, some kind of brain that can say this is the safest option. And I mean, you're saying here, we're not allowed to have...
That's why we don't have Lloyd flying so much these days. But moving on to our next story.
Debate that one as well, but here's the thing about that. We're not allowed to have fully autonomous flying because they're saying someone's got to be there to make control. Then they're saying, but while that pilot is making the decisions, we're going to force you to have autonomous actions of the aircraft to provide safety. I mean, that's just stupid. The logic's stupid all the way.
I'm going to pause there just for a minute. Before we go on to our next story, John, I do want to ask you a little bit about the fishing drone, the Tim thing, right? So I'll quickly brief you. Long story short, you've seen the video, you've seen what he's done. He's flying, or actually I shouldn't say a person is flying a drone. He was part of the team that was around that day. There was a guy slung beneath the drone. Your comments initially was you believed that it was an experimental category of aircraft based on what you saw? Yep. Okay. So that's, So CASA disagreed. They've gone and raided initially his parents' home. They didn't find anything there, so they then needed to go to his home. They didn't have a warrant for there, and still turned up and said, "We'd like to raid your home and take these things. Show me the warrant." "Oh, that's not my address. Go away, come back." They came back, they took a bunch of stuff, and now he is, obviously under investigation. He hasn't been charged as far as I know at this stage. What's your opinion? Do we over-regulate and turn into the nanny state with this kind of stuff where people are in that experimental category, right? Is it a drone? Should people be allowed to, in a safe manner, they're away from the general population. It was a clearly heavily planned and heavily orchestrated event. What do you think?
Well, I think from a first thought, if you're going to be the first person to do this and you're going to put it up on the internet, and CASA are going to make a deal of it, and they want to make an example of you, that's what's going to happen. So CASA, if they did nothing, right? So they said, "Oh, look, all of those points. It didn't hurt anyone. It probably could have been an experimental aircraft. All these things. If CASA did nothing, then everyone would go, aha, there's where we're going. Let's do that." So what they've got to do, say this is the Bunnings barbecue story. Now it's the same guy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they put that hat on. CASA decided that they would let everybody know what the rules are by prosecuting the Bunnings barbecue guy and list the rules that he broke. And then everyone would say, that's okay, that's good. If you did nothing, then you're setting a precedent. So be careful when you're the first one to decide something like that. I reckon if it ended up in court, and you'd never go to court against CASA, because in the end, there's an overriding rule. Now, this is the one that will get you. The overriding rule of aviation is that no person shall operate an aircraft or other flying vehicle that shall cause a hazard or injury to other persons or property. So now that rule overrides the sub 100 gram rule as well. It's the only rule. So people say, when you say, under 100 grams got no rules at all, no, that actual rule there stops you from flying a 100 gram aircraft down the runway at Gatwick, because that would create the hazard. So CASA always got that one in their back pocket. And so you can't win. You won't win. You go to court and they'll pull that up and they say, no, that was a hazard to that person that was in it.
But that is subjective, I think. That's the problem.
Yeah, it is subjective. Agreed. But you're going to fight some pretty heavy lawyers, and they're going to make the point. If they're using this guy to make the point, all you're doing is helping their cause. Then you go to court and do it. And that's why we're waiting for the privacy thing to go to court. See, CASA don't care about privacy.
Here's the thing that I talked about, John. I've done a couple of videos the last 24 hours, and my simple question is this. If CASA want to do that because he's the first one to do that, why didn't they prosecute the first one to shoot down a drone out of the sky and the second one to shoot down a drone out of the sky? That annoys me more, because they've got this perception, and the media and the parliamentarians have this perception that drones are bad. But then when someone does something against a drone operator, which is just another aircraft operator, according to CASA, if this regulation applies because it's an aircraft, well, what about when it's an aircraft that's getting shot out of the sky? What about when there's a $250,000 LiDAR survey drone that's shot down? No investigation.
You're trying to make sense out of something that is not going to make sense.
It's the government. It'll never make sense.
It never makes sense. That they have clearly defined, and I agree with you on the shooting down. It's interfering with an aircraft, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. And you know what? There has been some cases they've chased. That I think they're under-resourced, and I know that for a fact here in Australia. These guys are terribly under-resourced, and so they actually have to. And the ATSB will claim to be too. And I've got in the back of my mind a couple of little things, and I'll share them on the show. And I'm just saying this is my opinion, so I don't want anybody to think that I know anything special. Just my opinion. I actually believe that some of these shoot-down incidents, CASA and the ATSB are going to push them aside and not deal with them. And when the government comes back and says, why don't you do that? You say, we're under-resourced, we need more money and stuff. And they do. And so that it's actually part of a government engineering, if you like, or bureaucratic engineering. When we cut down air traffic controllers, right, in Australia, and we sort of cut it back to computers, the Air Traffic Controllers Union said, oh, look, we've nearly had a bit of a near miss there, we've sacked a few controllers. I hope everybody's happy going up there with less controllers.
I understand what you're saying, John, but the only objection I've got, the big objection, is that a report was made to the ATSB. When you have a look at their website, those events do not appear in the statistics. It didn't even happen. You can, if you've got something that's been logged and recorded and not investigated, that's one thing. But when you don't even record that it happened, that's a cover-up, in my opinion.
It is a cover-up, and I still think there's a reason to think we're being conned a little bit there with what they do cover and what they don't cover. Now, look, I'm not trying to say there's anything nasty going on there, although again, one would wonder sometimes. But I think the travelling public, the government at the moment just wants to be able to tell the travelling public that you're safe in an airliner, and everything they've got in terms of resources goes into that. You shoot down someone's aircraft over their property and everything, okay, that's not the travelling public. No one cares. Most of the public said good. I'd shoot it over if I had a gun over my property too. So it's the court of popular opinion.
It is.
It's not the law, but you know what I mean. And so, if CASA can easily go, if there was enough uproar from the operators to say you have to do this, you know, we're going to make this a huge platform, then CASA would use that as well to say, well, we need more resources and blah blah blah. It's not going to happen. It really isn't on their radar. As operators, we feel very passionate about it, and you know, but it's no one else does, man. Let me tell you, no one else cares. They're actually pleased. You know, that's the problem. They're pleased. So how do you fix that problem? You know, we do the right thing. We fly sensibly and neighbourly, and hopefully we get enough tech. We start saving lives and start letting people see the benefit of it. And it's going to take a while. And when it does, you know, we'll move forward. We'll move on.
Yeah. Okay. Look, speaking of moving on, let's move on to our next story. I did put the title up before, but take two. 3,000 drones have been spraying 1.3 million hectares of cotton fields starting in late August. Over 1,500 drone pilots involved and 1,000 crop protection teams with approximately 3,000 sets of XAG P-Series plant protection UASs to defoliate the cotton. Now, we've got a quick little video. Here's the interesting piece. Let's play that. This particular UAV, waterproof.
Definitely.
Cool.
So obviously, you know, flying when you're doing crop spraying and all of that kind of stuff, it's just really, really cool.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I like the look of that. Gonna feed the world, man. I know that. I've talked to the ag guys. They're gonna feed the world with these things.
Yeah. How are you going for time there, John? I know you said you needed to move on at some point.
Well, I'm going to throw it over to my buddy Lloyd now to continue on, because he's got lots of other great stuff. And I always like to sit back and listen to what he's got to say as well. So I'll move on and carry on, Lloyd. And next time I got to think about my background. You know, I'm going to get myself a Hugh Hefner kind of robe.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about getting
it works, man. It works.
And serving me drinks and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
I got to get that much more creative look. You know what I mean?
I actually have a background that puts me in front of a swimming pool in a grotto type house, you know. But
there we go. That's the one I want.
She liked the waterfall better, so that you know.
This is my wife's choice.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is 140614 sitting on the side, everybody. Have a good time. See you soon.
Talk to you soon, John.
Take care, John.
See you. See you, Lloyd.
Lloydie, let's continue.
All right.
So this one, actually, before we do anything, I'm going to just look at the computer screen in the bottom left to my... Can you talk, Lloyd?
Yeah.
Yeah,
can
the bottom left. Can you click the speaker button? There we go, because...
All right.
Yeah, that's better. Okay. So, multi-flight. The latest version of SenseFly's 1.08, the latest version of SenseFly's eMotion flight planning software offers several improvements, including multi-drone flight functionality. So if you're doing planned survey mapping or, you know, survey missions, the ability to go and have multiple birds in the air coordinated, time saving, rather than spending, you know, 2 hours doing a job, cut it down to 1 hour, 2 birds in the air at the same time. Really good.
I wonder how that'll work with because the pilot and command thing, you know, there's one guy controlling two drones. Does that legal under the licenses?
Good question. And the answer is the pilot in command can only control one drone.
That's what I thought.
I think that will change over time once regulators accept some autonomy of the drones and some level of that kind of stuff. That's already starting to happen, but they've already built it into the software, so it's a step forward.
Okay, cool.
Moving our next one, live remote drone racing from home with V-Rotor's mixed reality platform. The idea is to sit in the cockpit of a real drone using a PC or VR gear to fly like the pros. Integrated Twitch functionality invites streamers to interact as well.
Well, this is awesome. Now, see, I could do this.
Yeah, you don't need to get out of your home. You can do
That's
it from
it, man.
You can do it while you're in your dressing gown. But and mixing the virtual reality concept, I think this is really cool. This is going to be very big going forward.
Yeah, let me tell you, those VR headsets are awesome. But you got to be careful because they're very real when you're in that surrounding. I tried to set, and I was doing a flight in a flight simulator, and I was leaning down so I could see what one of the panels said. And when you're sitting in this cockpit surrounded by that thing, you lean down and you can see it. The closer you get to it, the closer it comes to you. What I forgot was outside of the VR glasses was the desk. Yeah. And I smacked my head on the desk.
Did it improve your thought processes after that?
Not really. I think it just made it. No, I'm at the age nothing can improve this.
Yeah. Well, the old saying, pigs might fly, pilots and stakeholders alike have always been keen to defend the drone market when reports are made to the Airprox board and similar groups and they make it into mainstream media. But post-Gatwick, this kind of stuff has become vital for the upkeep of the industry's reputation from both a commercial and hobbyist point of view. But this week brought the most amusing case yet. A pilot flying a Eurofox aircraft reported that he was buzzed at 1,900 feet by a 2-meter long flying pig. I kid you not. I kid you not. This is one of those things where, pilots are going and reporting, we've got a drone at, 1,200 feet out on the right-hand side or whatever the case may be. And look at that, a flying pig.
Flying pig. Yeah, when pigs fly. I would not have wanted to.
I'm just reading this report. This report buzzed at 1,900 feet, a 2-meter long flying pig. Let me just go into it. So the concern is that always drones are immediately to blame, etc., and the Airprox board, what did they say? They concluded that it would be classified as a Category D incident where there was insufficient information to determine the risk involved. So what's the difference between a flying pig and every other fake drone in the air? Sorry, do I sound like I'm
sarcastic? Yeah, no, that's okay. It's
warranted.
What pilot would admit to seeing a flying pig in the first place? Like, what were you drinking, buddy?
Anyway, moving on. Back while we're still in London, 2 London-based brothers have created a startup that aims to shake up the consumer drone flying fun experience. Drone Run, created by Alex and Toby Liu, is a flying game that keeps drone flying low to the ground and in line of sight, so that players don't have to worry about breaking any rules. The skill-developing game includes responsive landing and checkpoint challenges for beginner to professional consumer drone pilots who are seeking extra use for their drones. So if you can imagine, these little pads are in there, they're part of a game, and you've got to land on them, move from this one to that one, etc., and do them at certain times. Yeah. I think that's a really cool way to go and train people.
It's an excellent training aid because, that would be something that would work for me for sure. Because that's where I have a lot of problems is in my landings. They tend to, well, I use the auto land. So, I'm not stupid. I know I can't land it. So I just slide that little thing across and let it do it by itself. Thank God for DJI drones.
Absolutely. I got 2 more main news stories today, and then we'll move into our next segment. First of all, laws about minimum altitude. A new bill in the US will soon make it.
Shoot across my neighbor's fences. I shot directly into the air.
Uh-oh, what happened?
Let's try that again. I was hearing stuff in my ear. A new bill will soon make it illegal to snoop on your neighbor with a drone. The bill proposes a minimum altitude for drones of 200 feet. The proposal is based on experiences like this one.
I didn't shoot across the road. I didn't shoot across my neighbor's fences. I shot directly into the air. And if he'd have just flown by my property, wouldn't have been a word said. But when he hovered above my property for more than a few seconds,
this one I can't
felt
hear.
like I had the right to defend my property.
Yeah, so look, ultimately the guy there is shooting at a drone that was directly above his head. And as a result of doing that, obviously he's breaking the law. We've spoken about this earlier today. You cannot shoot at an aircraft. Doesn't matter if it's a drone or not.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. Is he not understanding Newton's laws?
Yeah, I mean, well, the whole concept, you know, being in a country that we have, and I don't know where was that at? Was that in the United States or was it over there?
It was in the US.
Well, obviously he's not a very intelligent. Yeah, most people that deal with guns, I'm sitting there trying to think he's an. I guess a nice way to say is he's another idiot redneck, and I live in the capital of redneck country. So, but here's the thing: as a gun owner, you know, and somebody who knows how to use guns, one thing you do is you don't shoot a gun in the air. You know, even if it's at a drone, because that bullet or those pellets are going to come down. You know, it's just
and
that
what's
it's
the
just that
terminal?
simple.
What is the terminal velocity of a bullet falling if you've shot it into the air?
I can't even tell you.
It's going to have some decent speed on the way back down. If it hits you, it's not going to be pleasant.
Yeah, real simple example. My son had an outdoor above ground pool set up, and when we went to take it down, in the bottom, of course, it was packed with sand, and he had a foundation under it and everything. Down after we broke it down, there was a hole in the bottom of it. It never leaked, but it had impacted through that into the sand, and we found the bullet, and it had come from a shooting range 3 miles over. Somebody shot one in the air, came down, and his kids were out there swimming, and it could have hit one of them. And it went through the water, and it was a 4-foot pool, went through the water and sunk about 6, 8, 10 inches into the sand. So it's just that simple. What goes up does come down.
Yeah. Okay. Let me move on. We got one more quick news story, and this one is again out of the UK. NATS, one of their regulators over there, has launched an online drone hobbyist training course. And the interesting thing here, Steve Graham, the head of business engagement at NATS, said, "We hope this new and existing drone users will find our new online hobbyist course useful." But can we just send that picture full screen for a minute? What do you see as a problem with this picture, Lloyd?
A shadow.
My wife said a shadow, my producer.
A shadow, yeah.
There's no eyes?
There's no eyes. You can't fly line of sight if you don't have
line of sight if you
eyes.
ain't got eyes, yeah. Okay, yeah.
I can't believe they've done that on their training course. It's just, anyway. Okay, so here's what we're going to do now. We're going to take a pause from the news. That's the main bulk of the news stories. I've got a bunch of other stuff. We don't have a guest today officially.
Steve Mack says 9mm terminal velocity is 300 feet per second when falling.
300 feet per second. What's that in kilometers per hour? Anyway, we'll come back to that. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go and play this week's FPV Korner. So let's roll that video. So this one is created by Quicksword, and it's entitled Freight Train FPV. And he says about this one, "I wasn't expecting a train, then one showed up at sunset. I'm impressed with how smooth the footage is with no image stabilization, just using a Flight 1 flight controller with the Falco X firmware." Yeah, really, really beautiful video.
That is cool. Oh, man. Look at that.
So this is a Western Sydney FPV group. We've had those guys on before. Make sure you check out on Facebook the Western Sydney FPV squad.
Yeah, I remember when they were on. X is like 210 miles an hour on that.
210 miles an hour. Like I said, what's kilometers per hour?
Oh,
we don't speak Gaelic. We don't speak Gaelic. Come on.
You're going to make me Google it, aren't you? Somebody put that, it's 329 kph for you people that drive on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah, but at least we got the steering wheel on the right side of the car.
It is.
Yours is on the other side. Ours is on the right side. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oldie but a goodie. So that was our little interlude today. Now I'm going to ask you, Lloyd, would you like some other interesting newsy kind of stories, or would you want Explore Australia first? Take your pick. What would you want?
It doesn't. You've got a lot of news, but let's do Explore Australia because I just really like that.
Okay, we can do that. So, are you ready, my producer, with the clip? So, our first clip from Explore Australia today is from Short Drone Clips, the 12 Apostles in Victoria.
Sorry, that popped up just as this came on.
So Short Drone Clips has produced this one, 4K footage of the 12 Apostles along the Great Ocean Road in Victoria, filmed on a DJI Mavic Pro.
Wow. I am always impressed with the color of your oceans, just the color of the ocean just blows me away down there.
And our second clip today. This was our guest recently. We had Victorian Aerial Vision come on as a guest. This is from Davies Bay in Victoria. It's a small, shallow bay out of Port Phillip, located in Victoria. One of several small bays adjoining the town of Mount Eliza and the closest region of the Shire and Mornington Peninsula in Melbourne. It's a 1.5k stretch of narrow beaches, backed by 20 to 30 metre high bluffs, and there's some beautiful houses on the top there.
Wow.
This was named after James Davy, who built a jetty at the western end of the bay in the 1840s. Why would you live anywhere else? Australia is where you need to be.
It's probably the one country that Judy would be willing to move to. Her being a native of Oklahoma, she doesn't even want to leave the state, but Australia's probably the one place she would move to.
Yeah, but I don't know if Australia's big enough for a grump like you.
Yeah, I don't know if they could put up with me. Oh, this is awesome.
Now, here's an interesting thing. Today's clips, there was a comment from Greg Hilton, who prepares this each and every week. He says the clips this week are bursting out of the seams, and he's got a double-double, two from Drone Zone 601 and 2 from Gizmo Drones. He said it was hard to choose between them, so he stuffed them all in there like an overpacked suitcase. So we've got coming up after this one, our first one from Drone Zone 601 will be up in a couple of moments. And here we go. This is White Yowie Homestead, abandoned farmhouse on the Barrier Highway in White Yowie. I think that's how you say it, in South Australia. I'm looking forward to doing some travel out in the sticks in the near future myself, going to some locations where my ancestors came from, out around the Mudgee region, and I'll be definitely taking the bird with me and hopefully get some good footage out there.
Cool. Believe it or not, this actually looks like western Oklahoma with that red dirt.
Well, come on, we are the big red country. I mean, look at Ayers Rock.
Oh,
or should I say Uluru?
Uluru, okay.
So this is a second clip from him. I believe it's of the same location as well.
Right.
But just a second clip that he had.
I hope he has Kuhnert eyes on that drone. Those birds flying around.
Yeah. Victorian Aerial Vision commenting red dirt is typical of Central Australia. Absolutely. So these are our two clips from Drone Zone 601, all shot from South Australia. The next one we got is coming from Gizmo Drones in a couple of moments, so while we're waiting for that to come up, can I just remind people, do have a look at the description for this video. I take the time each and every week to put the links for the channels where these things come from. I would like to ask each and every one of you, do me a favor, go and click on their links and let them know that you saw them here on Ausby Drone and that you've come across. Do subscribe to them if you like their footage as well. So here we go, the Gizmo Drones is creating this one. The iconic Arbery Afloat by Drone in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. This particular boat is back again after a break over winter. The iconic floating restaurant and bar is bigger and better than ever, he says, so I've taken the opportunity to capture its splendour on this beautiful Saturday morning. He makes a comment, and this is something interesting. I hadn't thought about this, but he's actually made a comment. Please note, I flew safely and within the drone flight rules. So every time you post a video, if you're flying, it'd be interesting. Some of the things that we've talked about earlier today with, the human lifting drone. Why not actually document in your videos what you did to fly safely and why you think your flight is okay? It'll potentially save you from problems later.
Yeah, because there are a lot of people that go out there and they look for those mistakes, like, hey, you were flying over people, or you were flying over moving vehicles, or you were, and those are the rules.
And I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of the rules. When you're taking off, if you're flying, forward of where you are, you're allowed to have people closer than 30 meters behind you, as long as they're behind you and directly involved in the operation of the drone. There's some exceptions to the 30-meter rule, and that's one of them. But when you're coming in for a landing, they can't be there, hypothetically. So that's, some of the interesting rules that I've found while researching the that recent case. You had a question. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
Well, no, that's fine. It's just that I think I figured it out. This must have been sped up, because either that or everybody in this video is speed walking.
The second clip here is called Floral Clock in St Kilda Road in Spring by Drone. Now that it's spring, he returned to the Floral Clock in Queen Victoria Gardens on St Kilda Road, Melbourne, to see how things have changed since he was there 3 months ago. He also added another couple of interesting icons too. Hope you like the video. He flew at 2 other locations that weekend, so please watch out for the new videos in coming days. And he says again, from a safety perspective, I flew safely and within the drone flight rules. By documenting it in your video, it'd be going one step further and saying this was a recreational flight. I maintained 30 meters from people at all times. I checked for airspace. You know, that'd be a really cool thing for people to start getting in the habit of doing that.
Yeah, and like you said, it protects them from the possible repercussions from somebody if they can say, hey, this is what I did, you know.
By the way, I'm just reading some of the messages over here from a couple of people saying they didn't get the notification. Just a reminder, our time zone in Australia changed, so we've been going for 1 hour already. This is when we normally end the show. So if you're just arriving now, hope you realise that our time zone changed.
Yeah. And ours doesn't change for, I don't know when ours changed, next month or the end of this month. I can't remember.
Now we're going to do something a little bit different today after the show. We normally hang around in Discord, but today we're going to hang around in Rendezvous. So Lloyd, I'm going to get you to do me a favour. Post the link of the Rendezvous into the chat room now, and we'll stop the stream, but people can join and we'll have a look at the remaining videos so that we'll finish the official part of the show, but we'll have kind of the show after party and we'll look at the rest of some really cool videos. And there was just so much of it there today. You saw the news that was in the feed.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, there was a ton of it.
This run sheet is something we produce every week for the show, and just the number of items there is absolutely insane.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway.
And you didn't get near. There's still a bunch you left off.
Yeah, those ones that I left off, those are the ones that we're going to do in the after party. Right,
Okay.
So we're going to get to the rest of the stories in the after party. For the live show, we're going to finish the show now in a couple of minutes. We'll say goodbye. People are welcome to join, and we'll continue the recording. We'll leave the recording going, and if it's good enough, maybe we'll upload it later. But it's been fun. Lloyd, thank you for being our fill-in grump, I suppose, for lack of a better description.
Yeah, semi-guest. A semi-co-host, semi-guest.
A little bit of everything. So thanks for watching. Thanks for being with us today. Please do give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it today. If you didn't, that's all right. You can do whatever you think it deserves. And we'll see you next time, and we'll see you in the after party. Bye for now.